Alright, today is a little different. I'm going to continue my edit bind comparison video from 6 months ago, except this time I'm going to compare and rate the more unpopular edit binds like X, Z, and left alt. For each edit bind, I will show my first trial through an edit course, then briefly talk about what I think about the keybind. At the end, I'll rank all these edit binds and you can take it into consideration if you're planning on switching. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the comparison. X is one that can let you edit pretty fast. However, it does not feel comfortable when pressing it with the index finger. You can see that I messed up a few times, mainly because my finger felt like it had no room to travel. I had to curl my fingers to press the button, and I found it pretty difficult to use when tunneling since switching between X and D felt unnatural. If you want to use X, I highly recommend tilting your keyboard slightly up to give your index finger more space to move. Otherwise, I would use alternatives such as E and F over X on any day. With that said, I give X a 6 out of 10. Well, based on that clip, I think it's safe to say that learning how to edit with the mouse side button will be the hardest compared to the rest of these edit binds. This is not to say that it is a bad bind. In fact, if you are willing to put in the time and learn how to edit with your side button, it will grant you perfect movement and fast editing speed. The toughest thing about learning this keybind is mastering the timing of your clicks. I found myself to press the left click way too fast and end up missing the edits because my thumb movement makes me want to hit the left click. Overall, I give mouse side button an 8 out of 10. To my surprise, left alt might have been one of the most comfortable thumb edit bind that I tested. Despite the few mess ups I had, I felt like left alt was the keybind that I could actually switch to. I was so confident in my ability with left alt that I decided to try the harder version of the edit course. As you can see, on my second try on this new edit bind, I could do 80% of the course without messing up. Left alt is without a doubt one of the most underrated edit bind, especially for thumb editors. It is relatively easy to press and easy to spam and easy to learn. Overall, I give left alt a 9 out of 10. Just a quick side note, the edit symbol you saw in those two clips look like brackets, but I actually made it so that when I press left alt, it spits out bracket to avoid myself from alt tabbing. Hope that clears it up. Z was a pretty comfortable bind to use for my ring finger. It was decently easy to press but hard to spam with. The thing about ring edit binds like Z is it restricts your character from moving to the left when doing the classic top right triangle edit, which makes it a very unoptimal keybind compared to others such as E and F. While E and F restricts you from moving to the right, it is actually not that big of a deal because moving to the right puts you in poor positions for the opponent's right hand peek. Whereas in Z's case, getting restricted from moving to the left while editing makes you a much easier target in close counters and especially to the classic peanut butter edit. Hence why both Z and Q are not the edit binds that I would recommend for any player. Having said that, I rate Z a 5 out of 10. In my opinion, T is the worst edit bind to use out of all the options here. It is hard to reach with my index finger, and besides that, there are much better alternatives such as E, F, or even R. Though I do think it is a viable edit bind if you have long fingers. To summarize this edit bind, I think T feels uncomfortable, sluggish, and hard to spam. With that said, I'm going to give it a score of 5 out of 10. Finally, for the ranking, I have to put left alt at first for its incredibly ease of use, mouse side button at second for its perfect movement potential, X at third for its relatively good position on the keyboard, Z in fourth for it being one of the best ring finger edit bind, and lastly, T at fifth for its potential to be used by a Spider-Man. To conclude, edit binds are really down to your preference. If you're comfortable with your current one, then there is no need to switch. There are plenty of pros who will use questionable edit binds but can still stay on top of the game. If you want to see more edit bind comparisons, check out my previous video where I compared the more popular editing binds. Consider subscribing and using code PERIPHERALS in the item shop. Peace.